Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Malik Washington. How's everyone doing this fine day or evening, wherever you all reside in the world today? I hope everything is going well for you all, and I pray for everyone courage, strength, and everything, whatever traits is necessary that you need to carry you forth through whatever it is that you're going through in the world today. Today, I want to dive right on into the topic at hand. Many of you all, some religious, some maybe not, some political, some not, right? We got a little bit of everybody. We got around 6 to 8 billion humans in the world. So I'm pretty sure everyone is going to be in some way, shape, or form between those two brackets, if none at all. But nonetheless, I'm sure many of you are within either of those two frameworks. But I dared to ask the question, to beg the question of which was asked and once upon a time back in the 1700s, particularly with America itself, is within the conversational framework around religion, church, and state, right? And so many of you, if you grew up in America and you've studied, or if you went to school, you might have had a basic foundation, or you've heard the quotation of separation of church and state, which was eloquently quoted by the founding father, Thomas Jefferson himself, surrounding the First Amendment. If you don't know quite frankly what that is, I can explain it in short, just to keep it simple, nothing too complex. What it simply is a statement that's essentially saying that the government cannot control or create religious institutions. But also, on the other hand, religion cannot create or control governments. No, let me take that back. They can't control governments, assuming they weren't founded primarily by religious institutions. Now, we know, of course, this country wasn't solely founded on religious beliefs. It was also founded on political ideologies as well. Although a lot of our belief systems are packaged and repackaged by many Judeo-Christian values, primarily the Holy Bible or the Bible itself, which entails from Genesis to Revelation, the story of the first human, and how that first human created multiple human beings, which created worlds, different evolutions, different time frames, different civilizations that help shape the populations that we currently have in today's time. Many of you live in the country, in America, like I do, where we believe in the concept of democracy. Also, a republic that is dictated by the Constitution itself, right? So we believe in the majority, obviously having the right to decide how policy is shaped through the three branches of government: judicial, legislative, executive, you name it. That being stated, we elect these officials to go in there, make decisions for us, and let Congress know, or before the world, these are the terms and conditions we would like for our country, our states, our overall union, you name it. The question is begged, though. Many of our issues tend to clash at each other. And it's a lot of times it's because many of us are coming from backgrounds where our moral framework is shaped by our religious institutions. But some of us have also been shaped not just by religion, we've been shaped by our everyday experiences. Those everyday experiences create this political framework that's more secular. And so we have conversations surrounding that. Because life is very complex. Life is not just merely theological, it's also political. We can deal with issues related to family matters, things related to foreign policy, things related to our money or economics, things related to sociocultural matters that we find very near and dear to us, whether if it's religious or political indifference. But sometimes there are instances where religion gets involved, and to some people, this is a purely political matter. Some things are religiously involved. And then sometimes politics get into religious matters, and it shouldn't have anything to do with it. It's kind of why you have differences in parties: Democrat, Republican, Independent, Libertarian, Green Party, you name it. Used to be back then back in the 1700s, there used to be a party known as Democrat Republican Party, which they were meshed together, strangely enough. But now today they've been separated. And they're the two strongest parties, or you could say they're two wings of the same bird, that pretty much dictate how our policies, our institutional framework is ran. And so the question I beg to many of you who are perhaps listening to this video and wondering, well, what's the significance of this topic, is should religion and politics mix? Reason being why I ask it, and it's a very broad question, because there's a lot within it that if you break it down into little bits and pieces, that answer is just not going to be a one size fits all matter. But I present it broadly because as Americans, or even around the world, because everyone's framework and governance is different. You take, for an example, France. France is not wholly religious. They have religion, they have belief, but that belief and that religion does not dictate their government. It's more secular than anything. You take another country like China. China has religion, but China imposes a lot of their beliefs based off of the CCP as well as the prime minister's framework of the world. They control it. They impose you could say their very serious outlook on these foreign beliefs onto the state of their country. And essentially, if these religions are teaching anything against their constitution, their framework as a Chinese people, they will clearly impose very serious restrictions on these religions. We can see that a lot happening with Uyghur Muslims and also the Christians that live within their state. Their people have a very hard time with their religions because it is Western in nature, but moreover, it preaches things that China may not necessarily agree with. So that being said, you will have all these different ideas and policies that are set against those religions in order to restrict it. If they had it their way, they would completely get rid of those religions altogether. But that's China. That's not everyone else. And so with that being said, everyone thinks differently. And as Westerners, we may sometimes feel because we are the overarching powerful nation that imposes a lot of our beliefs onto the world. Everyone in the world does not subscribe to Western democratic beliefs. We notice this a lot, particularly with the Middle East. Take, for an example, Tehran, Iraq, Iran, all these different places that are heavily influenced by Islamic regimes and governments. They clearly don't have the same beliefs as America does. Now, is that to say that everyone within their country believes the way that their regimes do? No. And we clearly have seen that even with the current standing war that we're having with Iran today, that some people don't like that regime. In fact, prior to Islam, Iran used to be known as Persians. Well, their ancestors were Persians, let me say that. But historically, they were framed as the Persian people. They had their religion initially was Zoroastrianism, along with, I believe, some other religions too. So I won't say that they were homogeneously Zoroastrian, which is basically, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's sun worship, right? Or worship of the sun. That being said, their people then eventually at some point converted to Islam, but it became very restrictive. And as we know with Islam, there's a lot of beliefs, well, that are very legalistic. And if you don't follow through with some of those beliefs, they get very extreme. Sharia law is one of their things. And there's certain acts within their beliefs that are haram. You go against these laws, these beliefs, they kill you via stoning, hanging, you name it. Probably even torture or beatings, whatever. If any of you are of those countries and you listen to this video, you pretty much know what I'm saying. If I'm saying something wrong, you can definitely correct me on it. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But I bolster all of that to say this. Everyone thinks differently from America. And clearly, America has a primary function as a state to make sure that everyone has the ability to be able to live the life that they wish to live under this religious/political institution. But there are some specific matters within our beliefs that can sometimes go against, they can mesh together, and sometimes they're separate. You take, for a perfect example, abortion. Now, I'm not talking about abortion intensely or heavily. I'm just bringing these issues up as they generally exist in our society. And this is what we have to fight against on a daily basis. You have some people who believe in pro-life, being in pro-life ideology, right? And you have some people that believe in pro-choice. The woman has the ability to decide what she wants to do with her body. Sometimes because religion believes that life begins at conception, that goes against what this side believes. Because this side believes that irrespective of where life begins, that woman has the ability or the autonomy to say what she can and can't do with this child because it's specifically within her body. But to the religious side, they're saying that that irrespective of that, it is irresponsible. And you should be able to say, hey, I don't know if this is from a moral framework. I don't think that this might be a good idea simply because it might lead to actually killing a life. Right. And so with that being said, there is this not a competition, but there is this, you could say, opposition between the two. And so recently, I want to say about maybe a few years ago, we had the situation where when the Trump administration came into the office, the Supreme Court had decided that I forget the name of that case. It's a very common case, and now it just left my mind. But nonetheless, what the pro-choice people depended on within that case was for them to have the freedom to be able to have abortions federally, statewide, or nationwide. However, this prevented them from being now, because the court has reinterpreted as these laws that are set regarding abortion must now be condensed into condensed and given to the state as opposed to the federal government. This created problems with the pro-choice people. So religion kind of got involved because some states don't believe in abortion, even in some extreme cases, which has led to some complications for pro-choice people. It is really bothering me that I actually forgot the name of that case, and it's like right at the tip of my tongue. But nonetheless, okay, I'll just keep going. Don't even mind me. I'm in my brain right now. But nonetheless, that being said, it led to some complications, and that begs the question: should religion get involved in political matters? Because if we're being frank, abortion is more on a relative level. It's more so, regardless of religion or politics, that's between the mother and the father. And the mother and the father have to decide whether if they want to do this. However, where it will become problematic is if our tax-paying dollars, which that's not to say that it is going towards it, but hypothetically, if our tax-paying dollars were going towards the subsidizing of women going to abortion clinics to have abortions, and some of those tax-paying dollars are from people who just so happen to be Christians or believers, and they don't believe in the taking of a life, that could create some friction, because who wants their money to financially go towards something that they don't believe in? That kind of makes it seem as if they're endorsing the behavior. They're endorsing the act. And so naturally, none of us want that to happen. Look at even what happened when Donald Trump came into office, created Doge, and Elon Musk and this team finds all of these strange fundings going towards these different liberal leftist groups that had nothing, that none of the American people knew anything about. But apparently it was some strange shit related to the LGBTQ, transgender people, and them teaching this out in the Middle East, even preaching, even advocating for atheism in certain countries, none of the American people knew, but this was being pushed by the far left. This was being pushed by the Democratic leftist Congress under the Biden administration. That would be conflicting. And especially if the people don't know where their money is going, that's problematic too. We have every right to know where our money is going. So auditing should have happened probably years ago. It should have happened yesteryear, but it didn't. So that being said, it creates these conflicts. Some people don't want certain things to happen within their reality. You had, for a perfect example, the issue with the LGBTQ and the legalization of marriage. There was a point in time it wasn't necessarily considered legal for two people that were of the same orientation to marry with one another. But then Barack Obama came in, he legalized it. Religious people thought what? Well, this is wrong according to the Bible. You know, Leviticus, Deuteronomy, go through the whole nine with the Bible. This is wrong. But on a legal level, is it necessarily wrong for two humans to be in love and basically get married? So you have these two realities. Should religion have stepped in and had a word to say at all about this matter? Now, we all have a right to have an opinion about what we feel about something, but should set policies infringe on someone else's rights to be able to do what it is they want to do, regardless to how we may morally feel about it? Because separating politics from religion, politically, who cares? Religiously, God cares. And so the people under God feel this shouldn't be. The non-religious people, secular people, are saying, let these people live how they want to live. It's their absolute right. So you have that. And then it could be nuanced. The religious person can say, look, I don't agree with your lifestyle, but guess what? It is your right to do it. You live in this country. They give you the ability to be able to obviously marry the one that you want to be with. Although I may not feel like it's authentic, I may not feel like it's correct, but I will defend your right to have it, because like I, who have the freedom to express my religion about things you or the next person may not agree with, you have the right to do it. So do I. So I will defend your right to do it, because it is legally right. It's legally binding at this point, regardless to how I feel about it, right? I don't think you should die because of it. I don't think you should be beaten, tortured, bullied, which is what they used to do to LGBT individuals way back when, within the 1900s or better, especially during the Stonewall era. So that being said, there's so many different issues that happen, right? And religion and politics can get very messy. It just depends. But what do I think about the whole thing? Do I think that they both should mix? Do I think that they're both necessary for each other? Well, here's the thing. Religion and politics, they're going to be here for time immemorial, until the end of until humans are no longer exist. Religion does exist without politics. Politics doesn't exist without religion. They're both here in tandem together. They're almost inextricably linked. And I've always said religion and politics are always on the thin line, because they act almost alike. Only difference is that one is keen on being loyal to a god. The other one is more so loyal to themselves, if that makes any sense, because it's just dealing relatively with one another as human beings and learning how to compartmentalize what is right and or wrong about some of our behaviors, and if we should put policy around it. We take, for an example, let me give you a historical example. Emperor Constantine, back in 313 AD, he created a edict known as the Edict of Milan, which legalized Christianity in the country and which lessened persecutions of religious people, more specifically Christians themselves, and it led to the freedom of worship. In turn, it also led to religious figures becoming more theologically powerful and influential in the political realm. We've seen this a lot with bishops in the Catholic Church who work in tandem with the emperors. The emperors were going forward, were more acceptable of religious influence or religious belief. But regardless of that, religion did not necessarily dictate how a government was ran, especially if an emperor was secular or religious indifference, right? Because regardless of that religious foundation, politics still played a role. And in a way, Constantine utilized Christianity as a way to bring everyone together. It was clearly a way to keep everyone under one unified belief, as opposed to having everyone having all these different polytheistic beliefs surrounding whatever gods or goddesses that Rome once believed in, because it was a very polytheistic nation. Still had its elements, and we could often see it within ancient Roman Christianity. A lot of them meshed their religions together with their political beliefs or polytheistic beliefs. But so long as they believed in Christ, and Christ consolidated it under the name of, the blood of Jesus, it didn't matter. They were consolidated. They were together. It made Rome a lot more stable. So that being said, in this instance, stabilizing and creating these religious uniformed countries helped made the religion a lot safer to practice. But moreover, it gave people the ability to learn about the religion a lot better instead of people going around calling Christians heretics, killing them, and telling them that they don't belong in the country. So in some instances, it helps. But there's other instances where even sometimes religiously founded institutions, religiously founded countries can sometimes create a one-sided narrative, and they're not considering all factors within a matter. I mean, we take a perfect example with Tehran and Islam. A very strict religion. They have certain beliefs that are beneficial, but there's others that are just too far gone. And I'm not going to go in depth into Islam because this episode isn't about them. But the bottom line is, especially with how they treat the women there, the clothes that they have the women wear all day, every day, even on the hottest of days, that could be very controversial, biologically speaking. But nonetheless, they're willing to make that sacrifice in the name of Allah. That being said, driving home, the point is this. It's not so much separation of church and state for me, as much as it is separation of extreme belief versus moderate belief. What beliefs help keep a nation stable? What beliefs actually drive nations separate, dividing them up and causing turmoil, upheaval, and instability within a country? As the Bible says, a divided house cannot stand. So even though we're separating all of these different beliefs because in the name of politics or in the name of religion, you can separate them, but politically it might create instability. You can separate religion, but it might create instability. And in some instances, you might mesh things together, but they don't politically, religiously align. So that creates the issue too. I think you have to go according to per issue what we're talking about, what's most effective between the two factors. Religiously, is it more beneficial than it is politically, or is it more politically beneficial than it is religiously? Again, I don't think you should get rid of them entirely. They work together as they always have since the first man. So that being said, they're always going to be here. The question is, which beliefs are we taking? And we're saying this seems more politically beneficial as opposed to religiously beneficial. And this is more religiously beneficial as opposed to politically beneficial. If that makes sense to any of you. And if you don't understand, comment and let me know what you don't understand, or if you feel like there's context missing and you need something more specific in order to better understand what I'm saying. Because I want to make sure we're all on the same table, whether if you agree or disagree. Right? Don't listen to these videos confused. Please let me know. I don't want my words being misunderstood, lacking clarification, you name it. So that being said, and I think I will leave it there. The only thing I will just say to you, ladies and gentlemen, is this. The conversation is relative, but I am interested to see whether if you're religious or not, where do you stand on the matter? Do you think that there should be separation? Do you think that there should be meshing? Do you think that there should be a combination of both? Sometimes I do think that meshing is necessary. Sometimes I think separation is necessary. I don't think everything needs to be separate, but I do think if we're going to mesh them together, we do need to ask what outweighs the other more. And then that, I think, will help us to better regulate how to handle the situation as we go on. But I think to completely separate or to completely mesh is not conducive for all situations and all scenarios. I think we have to take into consideration any and everything that is within that scenario, politically, spiritually, medically, you name it. Everything isn't religious, but also everything isn't political. It requires some discernment. And are we going to always get it right? Absolutely not. We're human. It's always going to be something that may or may not go wrong. But we want to choose the likelier outcome that's going to best fit the majority of the population because we can't please everyone. So I'll leave it right there. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Malik Washington, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a good day or good night wherever you reside, and I thank you for listening if you got this far. Comment, like, subscribe to this channel. Please let me know, or I may end up finding it out anyway as soon as I get through with the episode. But if you want, and I'm sure somebody who sees this is probably going to let me know what it is, but you can put in the comment section for, the edification of anyone, the case that the Supreme Court was deciding against and reinterpreting in order to give rights in regards to abortion practice and going into abortion clinics, reducing it back to the states as opposed to it being federally or nationally recognized as something where the women can just go into any abortion clinic and there won't be any actual complications. So I'll leave it right there. Thank you, Pete. Thank you for listening. If you got this far, stay tuned until the next episode. Peace, everybody.